Welcome to the first episode of our Rangers of a Broken World series, everyone. This series, we welcomed Cat McDonald to join us to learn all about this brand new post-apocalyptic game of theirs that is currently playtesting through Evil Hat. But before we get to that, here's what to expect in our calls to action.
You can join us here after the show. Right here, you can stay where you are. You can move around because it's a podcast, up to you. But after the show, you can hear about the latest One Shot Network news, information about our Patreon, and our patron thank yous.
Yep, with all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone. Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, and this episode, my co-host Amelia and I are excited to welcome Cat McDonald, designer for the game we are covering in this month's series, Rangers of a Broken World, a post-apocalyptic fantasy RPG about overcoming the nightmares humanity has built for itself.
Welcome to Character Creation Cast. I'm really excited. I know Ryan's really excited to have you here with us. This is going to be so much fun today.
I'm already having a great time. I started having a great time in ways the listener cannot appreciate because the mics weren't rolling.
Yeah.
And I don't expect that's about to end.
No, dear listeners, we've been having a great time for 30 minutes. So, Kat, can you tell our audience who you are, along with your pronouns, what sorts of things you do, where people can find you online, all the good stuff?
Yeah. I am Kat. My pronouns are they, them, typically. I do whatever I want. I'm sorry. The things I say about myself with a straight face. I am a podcaster. I'm the host king of the podcast Sword of Symphonies, where my good, cool friends have been playtesting Rangers of a Broken World since its inception. And I am also the choir master of Roar to Heaven, where different cool friends have been playing Blazing Hymn and have been punished for it. You can find my games at peachgardengames.com or peachgardengames.itch.io. I love to write a TTRPG. It's one of my favorite things. And in my free time, I'm learning calligraphy because I picked it up as a pandemic hobby.
Nice.
Oh, and you can find me on Busky at Catling Gun. That's CATLING gun. Pew, 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 pew.
Do you have to type out the sounds too at the end, or
Yeah.
Only the first
or do you just
couple.
have to say them while you're typing to yourself?
If you say them while you're typing, it will help you spell gun. This is science.
Yep. That's how that works.
And if you say it 3 times into a mirror, Cat will appear right behind you.
Please don't. Please absolutely don't. I am so tired.
They have a lot going on. They don't have time to show up in your bathroom behind you in the mirror.
Air travel is so expensive these days. I can't just stop.
I love the idea that at Worldly Works, buy travel in an airplane. Like, it's magic that you know that you need to be there, but you still have to use regular
I still
travel.
have to book a flight. I still have to book a flight and get on a plane.
Like,
and,
there's no direct ones. Like, I have to fly through Atlanta. Go, God.
A couple days later, I'm exhausted. I'm knocking on your door, just like,
I do hope you at least have a couch.
Right.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Truly.
Come on.
The hostel situation in your city is a nightmare. So
yeah.
Then you got to wait until they look in the mirror again so you can jump behind them.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Okay, so, maybe don't do that then.
Yeah.
You want to play Blazing Hymn? It's about blasphemy.
There you go.
Sounds great.
Well, let's go ahead and get into this, and we'll start by discussing what this game is all about.
Yeah.
What's in a game?
All right. So, Kat, what are the core concepts of Rangers of a Broken World?
Rangers of a Broken World is about a Milta, a world that is 100 years recovered from an apocalypse. humanity is still there, and now they're starting to figure out what kind of world they want to rebuild. Meanwhile, the world is a dangerous place. There are noble demons, which are, demons. There are horrors, which are the kind of ghosts of the world's trauma and suffering. And there are the automatic weapons of the last war, the automata. The gods of Amilta are monuments called Daeliths. And people who have made a pilgrimage to visit these monuments and gained divine power as a result are called rangers. That's who you play. Rangers are people who, in their own ways, are helping humanity survive in a world that no longer belongs to us.
Okay, I already like this concept. I'm already here for it.
Yay, I'm glad.
Can you tell us a little bit about the setting, about like the world after this apocalypse? What's going on?
I describe it as being post-apocalyptic more in a Final Fantasy X sense than in a Mad Max sense. Like, it's not full, like, nuclear wasteland. It's a very pastoral. There's, nature is largely taken over. And there are so many supernatural threats. It is a fantasy. So we're looking at, I don't think I went medieval fantasy. I think I went, early Renaissance fantasy, post-gunpowder, pre-handgun.
Love it.
Is the example I give in the book. But there aren't countries in this world. Not anymore. The countries were all wiped off the map in the cataclysm. So some people are trying to rebuild the idea of countries, but the largest governments that exist are city-states. So everywhere a group goes in this game, they may encounter a city or a town or a village with its own idea of what kind of government people need in this world.
Do we know what the apocalypse was, or is that something that your group kind of defines? Or
there was a huge mountain range that crossed the center of the continent, and all but one of the mountains melted in a flood of silt and mud, and just buried everything.
Okay, so
only the last tooth remains, and it's so haunted.
Oh, just real haunted.
It's so haunted.
I love the way you say that. Oh, so haunted.
It's profoundly haunted, but that's where the Daelith wailing Agrippina lives. So if you want to become a wailing arcanist, you do have to climb it.
Oh, all right. Oops, as if you didn't read it.
Or rather, you have to have climbed it. And I think we're going to talk a little bit later more about what I mean by you have to have climbed it.
All right. I'm excited.
Very cool. Yeah. So what sort of tools do we need to play this game?
D6s. I love the cubes. You're going to want probably 6 or so D6s. And then just the rules and a way to keep track of your character.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yep. I like the basics.
Oh, yeah. See, that's a classic. D6s are so easy to get, too. It's like a great entry level, because it's you can go open up your box of Yahtzee or whatever, and you've got some sixes.
I'm not here to talk trash about games that have a higher kind of entry cost. Yeah. But for me, when I'm designing, I prefer to keep a game very accessible physically as well as in other ways. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a place for each kind. Exactly. And that's my taste. So
D6s just stack real nice. So if you're fidgety at the table, they're really great to just build little towers out of.
Yeah, little houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really what you need.
Listener, you missed a half an hour where we determined that Amelia and I understand each other. And it's still happening.
We're still understanding.
We're still knowing.
Yeah.
The little cubes make a good little house when you're not paying attention.
And that's really the core reason of why you would choose D6s for your game. No other reason.
Absolutely.
No other reason.
100%.
But then PBTA games really missed out because you can't build very big houses. Shadowrun. Now there's a game that understood architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my Sistine Chapel.
That's why you have to use a bathtub full of dice for Shadowrun is actually so you can build tiny houses.
I've stacked these dice in the configuration of Michelangelo's Pietà.
Right? Oh. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You just need 6 of them for this one,
Okay.
probably.
Yeah. So just like maybe like the miniature one that your mom had on the back of the piano, not the full Pietà sculpture. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a tiny piece.
That's for all the Catholics out there. His moms had tiny little Pietàs.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of stories and themes do you want people to explore in this game?
This is very much a game that is about working together, both about on the large scale, about like humanity working together to find a way forward after the world has been destroyed, but also about party members working together to overcome crises. We don't have a combat system. We have a crisis system. The same system is used to deal with a brush fire that threatens to destroy a village, as is used to fight a horror or a lesser daemon, or negotiate with a noble demon. These are all kind of the same systems. So the main ideas are teamwork, about working together, and about what makes a hero. Being a hero as a whole flawed entire person. We're going to go a little bit more into this when we go into character creation, but the stat line in this game was specifically built to enable disabled, neurodivergent, and mentally ill heroes.
Mm.
And the consequences for overusing some of your resources are reminiscent in a lot of cases of real life mental illness symptoms. Like your character has probably got some trauma and has, whether due to their magic or not, things that we in this world would consider flaws that are simply part of their nature. And so one of the big themes is just being a whole person as a hero.
Hey, I have those things. Neurodivergence and disabilities.
Uh-huh.
Same.
That's
Same.
me. That's me.
Same. And we're heroes in this story.
Yes.
Amelia, we're heroes
That's
in
amazing.
this story.
Can do it. Can do it. But then we do need a really long rest afterwards.
We need such a long rest.
There's like long rest and then there's like extra long rests.
There's a crisis pool for somebody perceiving you, and then afterward you just conk out for 3 hours.
Mhm.
Yep.
So what do these characters then do in this game?
It is their primary role. Socially, a ranger's role is whatever they want it to be. It's not like there's a government that's forcing them to do this or that, but most rangers take it upon themselves to protect people from supernatural threats. So to step in, like people can handle things like changing seasons or like animals acting strangely on their own. They're the locals, they know their area, but supernatural threats, those you might need somebody with special expertise for. And it also depends on the kind of ranger. Enduring legionnaires, for example, hold the line against an enormous swarm of horrors in the frozen tundra. Most title navigators stick to the sea and help people complete their pilgrimages by sea. So there's the short answer is whatever they want.
Yeah.
But the longer answer is whatever they can do. I think there's a line in the book that says like, not all rangers help people, but you mustn't hold that against them. Like, it's a lot of work.
What do you think is unique about this game? And in particular, when we have designers on, I kind of like to ask, why did you feel like this game needed to be made? What about this game did you feel like needed to be out in the world?
I mean, I just do things because I feel like it, and I worry about whether the world needs them later. But now that I've finished it, and now that I've shown it to people, I genuinely think that I've written a game that enables so much more flexibility in your mental image of what a hero is and what a hero does. The combat system, for example, people can use literally whatever action they reasonably think could assist their party.
Yeah.
And there's no rule saying you can use this skill, that skill, this stat, that stat. If you can reasonably think of something that would help your party, you can do that. So my hope is that with this game out in the world, it's going to open up people's idea of heroes and heroism to include well, to include people with disabilities and illness and mental illness and neurodivergence and themselves. Because if you've ever tried to set yourself out in D&D and just been like, oh, wait, my constitution is awful. I get sick all the time. And in this game, you're really more thinking about, and we'll get into it more later, but like, how do I solve my problems?
Yeah.
What is my strong suit when a problem comes my way? And so I think that it does give people a chance to reconsider maybe themselves as well as their idea of a fantasy hero.
Yeah, D&D really lacks a stat for like, I'm amazing in a crisis, but ask me to make a phone call and I fall apart. Like, there's not a stat for that. Like, which is, you know, one of those peak qualities of ADHD is that everybody else around you is like running around. And you're like, okay, nope, we got to do this, 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 and this. And then as soon as the crisis is over, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Absolutely. We're doing it again. We're doing the understanding again.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm so good in a crisis, but I'm very vulnerable to death by 1,000 cuts because like if 100 annoying things happen to me, I will crumble.
Yeah, if too many chords
I will fully
too
collapse.
many chords are tangled, I will have a meltdown. And I will throw something and I will scream. But yeah, like in the middle of some kind of like medical emergency or anything like that.
Oh yeah, count on me.
Cool as a cucumber. I got this.
And we've got some stats for that actually.
That's amazing because that's
something that you can capture in this game.
Games do not do very well.
Usually we go into the history of the game at this point, but this game is fresh off the design chopping block, so to speak. Currently playtesting right now. When did you actually start designing the game?
Oh, goodness. It's been like 5 or more years I started writing this game. It was called Heroic Chord for a long time, but I got really tired of 2 hard C sounds next to each other. And
oh, yeah, that's a good point.
When I was talking to Evil Hat about the publishing deal that has just been announced, and that right now it is currently the open playtest through the publisher. I've been doing my own playtest for years upon years upon years. You can listen to it in the podcast Sword of Symphonies. I've won awards for it. That's why I'm the host king. But where was I? I was self-aggrandizing. Oh, right. But that's when I was like, look, I'm tired of saying 2 hard C's next to each other. And we eventually landed on Rangers of a Broken World. So, and what sparked it, honestly, was that I just felt like I wanted to do game design again because I did it a lot in college with my friends and I had fallen off. And suddenly I was working graveyard shifts and I was bored out of my tree and I got nostalgic and decided to pick it up again.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes. It's just like, hey, I have some time to fill and I want to play around with something. And I like when like when you do end up with something at the end, as I've mentioned with my ADHD, a lot of I start a great many things. Very few continue on, for years. Like this podcast is great and also might have been a manic episode, but here we are 6 years later.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. That'll happen. Yep. That'll happen. That'll happen. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still riding that initial wave.
We're doing great. But like good for you for sticking with it for 5 years. That is
it's been tremendously
that is
fun,
no small task.
A big part of why I've stuck with it so long is the cast of Sword of Symphonies. In addition to being my excellent playtesters, they've also just been my friends and been with me all along. And
yeah. That makes a difference, having people like working on it with you and to bounce ideas off of and not just hear your own voice in your head the whole time. Makes a big difference.
It did mean that I accidentally did create a game around AP because my primary test was an AP. Oops.
Oh.
That was an accident though. And it's perfectly playable at a private table. It's just oops. Oopsie.
Yeah, and they are different. They are certainly
they're
different.
so different. They're so different.
We have an episode about that somewhere too, about like, it's okay that your home game, it doesn't sound like your favorite podcast.
We have 2 episodes about it. It's so prominent
It's not
in
only
the culture.
Okay, it's good.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting that the game is kind of designed around that AP mindset. It's because like the culture is shifting towards watching all sorts of actual plays out there and wanting to have a similar experience at home. So having a game that kind of has a vibe kind of around that as a baseline is really refreshing instead of a game that's
yeah.
Yeah, and it was fully accidental. It was just that my playtest was being recorded as an AP.
Right.
So oops.
That's how it worked out. Yeah.
It turns out that this is my advice to game designers listening. If you consistently test your game in a certain set of circumstances, you don't get to be surprised when your game ends up optimized for those circumstances. That's just how it works. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But it's things like that you don't think about so much because you're like, we're playing it. It's, but if you're only playtesting one-shots at conventions, it's going to be optimized for one-shots at conventions.
And and you and I have
and there's
both
nothing wrong
games.
with that. It's just know that that's how your game is going to play.
Yeah. And I think you and I have both read games that are exactly that you can tell were optimized for that.
Right.
And so like, hey, if you're playtesting your game in person, play remotely a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. So you can see how it works remotely.
Yeah.
That's I have so many thoughts. Many thoughts. I'm really excited that we're doing the open playtest because I've been playtesting this game for a very long time. And it's time to get other people's thoughts and feelings as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe even yours, listener.
Ooh. Yeah.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah. Check it out. You can read the game for free.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. Honestly, a beautiful game already. And this is just the playtest version.
Chris, such a good designer. Dang. Dang. Beauty.
Before we jump into the actual character creation part, our last question is, do you feel like there are any terms or concepts that we need to know before we start? Or a lot of times people just say, like, no, it's easier to explain as we go. But if there's any upfront.
Okay, so the concept I'm going to explain as we go, because this is something I alluded to earlier that is so important to the way this game conceives its characters, is that because people have to go on a pilgrimage to a Daelith to become a ranger, you have one piece of your backstory already finished. That is to say, when you choose a class, you are saying that in your backstory, you did X. And what that also means is that your character is capable of doing X. Obviously, you did it already. So, for example, if you are playing a character who uses a mobility aid, and you're playing a wailing arcanist who had to make it to the top of the mountain, you truly do not have to belabor why or how you did that. It's in your backstory. You climbed a mountain.
You did it.
We're not going to argue about that. You climbed a mountain.
Yep.
You made it work.
Yeah.
That's all there is to that. So the backstory is something that is kind of built into the class you're choosing that not only gives you an anchor point for your character's history and personality, but it also means, these are things that can be taken for granted about your characters, that they're capable of completing that pilgrimage.
I like that. I like that you don't necessarily have to, explain that. It's just like, I've stated it as fact. That's it. It's fact. You can, and you can decide if you want to talk about it. If you don't, that's,
Yes. One thing I've also really enjoyed playing this with people is that because it's a piece of backstory, you have a piece of backstory already written for you. You're not starting from a blank canvas.
Yeah. Yeah, you do always have that one thing that you can lean back on and say, we've decided this is true.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also seems like a very simple piece. Like, it doesn't require you to, like, think out and write that novel and, do that you can just say, this is something that I'll decide how it works later. If you want. If
you're playing a windswept cavalier, you have been to the floating Scattered Rose Island. You've been there. That's where the goddess Tamiris lives. That's where you went to get your powers. How you got there, you can write the novel about that if you want, but before you even start, we know that you've done that.
Yeah.
And that's a good starting point.
It's a really easy intro.
Yeah. It's not like the level 1 rogue in D&D that said, "Oh, and I slayed a dragon before I left my village." And that's why I'm here with this adventuring party.
Truly.
It's like okay.
Right.
I mentioned this off mic earlier, but I do really want to make a game that won't overwhelm people. And part of that is like giving them a little stepping stone into their backstory.
Yeah.
If they need it. There's also random character tables in the back of the PDF in the player tools section if you want them. Again, if anything feels overwhelming, by all means, go for it. Go ham. That's why it's there.
Absolutely.
But the rest I can explain as we go.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Well, are we ready to make some people?
I'm ready. I'm very excited.
Yay!
Yeah, let's make some people.
Ooh.
Let's make some people.
So what do we need to do first?
Well, you're going to start by choosing a class. We have got 7 of them.
Mm. Would you mind giving us a little quick like elevator pitch for each of them?
How dare you?
I do have the little character creation sheet in front of me, so I could read that, but I think you know more about it than I do.
It's for the audience. I can do it.
Yeah.
For you, of course.
We have got the Beckoning Infiltrator. They're kind of the rogue class. They're also kind of a spy class because they have a lot of communication and togetherness abilities. A lot of the design of the Infiltrator was because I got tired of the party rogue running off and being completely solo. So this is very much a cooperative class. To be a Beckoning Infiltrator, you have to meet the Goddess of Revolution, who is guarded in an ancient citadel, like actively by guards. And you have to sneak through all these fortifications to get in to meet her.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is. I do love Atosa. I wrote little myths about all the Daoliths when they were not stone. And Atosa is one of my favorites. She ruins a king's day. She's good.
He probably deserved it.
He fully did. We have the Enduring Legionnaire, an army of necromancer paladins that hold the line against the horrors in the frozen wastes. To become an Enduring Legionnaire, you had to fight your way through a haunted labyrinth and make it to the pillar at the center, which is the god Enduring Gaius.
I heard the word necromancer. I'm in.
You're saying a lot of words.
You're saying a lot of Amelia-related words right now.
This is Also, would it help if I explained to you that their class drawback if they overuse their powers is depression?
I don't. Fine. She says to the bipolar. Fine. We have the Tidal Navigator, kind of pirate bards who work together to keep people together, whose skills are connected to the wind and to the weather, and also just to people. In order to become a Tidal Navigator, you had to sail to a great archway at the center of a whirlpool, Tidal Augustine, who is called the Madness Gate. They are not. They're just incomprehensible to people. They're a deity. Let them be. Mm-hmm. And by the time they make this arduous sea journey, they're expert sailors. There is the Volcanic Tracker, the survivors of the very chaotic jungles of the Coral Coast. The Coral Coast has this coral that grows on land and grows very rapidly, causing it to just completely shift the terrain in a matter of a day. So this place pretty much can't be mapped, and you just have to roll with all of the things in order to make it to volcanic chafing, the wine red crystal they call the Coral Father. I talked a little bit about the Wailing Arcanist. A Wailing Arcanist is kind of a demonologist, a demon summoner. And in order to become a Wailing Arcanist, you had to make it to the top of the last tooth, the last remaining mountain, the one that's so haunted. Mm-hmm. And you get to have a little demon friend if you're a Wailing Arcanist.
Wailing as in crying out, not wailing as in going and finding whales in the sea.
Yeah. Because all of the
that would be a Tidal Navigator. They would go find whales.
Because I really, really love Xenoblade Chronicles. All of the Daoliths have that style of name. So Wailing Agrippina. That's why it's called the Wailing Arcanist, is because that's your deity is Wailing Agrippina. That's just that's how I did it.
It's your
I don't
game,
have to
you know?
answer. Yeah, I can do whatever I want.
It's true. You don't like it, make your own game.
Yeah, listen, everyone.
I mean,
make
also
your own
do
game.
make your own game.
It's rewarding. It's rewarding and fun to do. We've got the Wandering Magus, a kind of star-led tracker who's capable of chasing down any quarry, because Wandering Hector is embedded in the back of a giant ancient tortoise who does not have a fixed position. And so they have to be able to track this wandering god around in order to obtain his blessing. And they're guided by the stars and the star spirits. And finally, we had the Windswept Cavalier, which had to, like I mentioned earlier, visit Windswept Tamiris on Scattered Rose Island with the help of a creature called a Cloud Elk. That is an elk with big wings, and it carry you and be your friend.
That seems nice.
It is. It's nice. It's a nice. They're rangery. They're also kind of as close as I have to like a cleric, even though like most of these classes are ranger plus something else. This one's, there's a lot of healing and a lot of like gentle abilities with the Cavalier, in addition to cool bow stunts.
All right. So
It is a difficult decision.
I know.
These are all really good.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That pleases me.
I mean, I feel like I have to go with Enduring Legionnaire. That's,
I do love them.
I feel like that's it. It was predestined.
Right. I mean, that one, Wailing Arcanist also kind of is up your alley as well.
I know.
But
I mean, when we got to Enduring Legionnaires, I was like, this is it, that's fine. And then we got to Wailing Arcanist, and I was like, well, crap. Now I actually have to make a choice. The choice was not made for me. I think I am gonna go. I heard the word necromancer, and then I don't get to make a lot of necromancers because Ryan picks a lot of magical girl games. So
okay, counterpoint. Good to do that.
Yeah.
But
there aren't as many straight up necromancer games as there are straight up magical girl games.
Yeah. So,
magical girl games are having a real resurgence right now.
They are, and I'm loving it. I love them. But every class gets a special ally. And the special ally of the Legionnaire is the dead. They're part of a tradition of war, and the dead walk with them, and they have some abilities to communicate with the dead or to conjure specters. And so when they overuse those abilities, they begin to feel death taking hold of them, which manifests as a deep depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like your class, Amelia.
It's like a deep depression. That sounds like you.
So like
all of it.
They're necromancers, but in kind of a we walk with the dead, not in a the dead do my bidding kind of way. I'm also very partial to them, to be honest.
I love it. There's somebody with treatment-resistant bipolar disorder, with depressive features, as they call it.
I've got some gloomy modes. These lads have come from experiences for me.
Yep.
I am between like 3 or 4 of them.
Ryan, you are so bad at choices.
I
honestly,
I'm like, these are all sound amazing.
Title Navigators really did sound straight up your alley.
It did. Title Navigators, the Windswept Cavaliers as well. Like going against type a little bit. Wailing Arcanist sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Beckoning Infiltrators, I do love a good
okay, so Ryan, do you want to list the ones that you don't want to
do? Well, let's see. Kat, which one would you prefer to create a character for?
Oh, goodness. That's a good question. Just because there's there's more silliness in Arcanist because you get to make your demon friend.
Ooh.
But I love they're all my children and my babies. If you're a windswept cavalier, you have a cloud elk, like you have a mount.
I mean, that does feel like something that Ryan would love.
I do love the flying cloud elk.
Yeah, I feel like the windswept or the tidal navigator, I think are really, those are my top two for you. Would you like me
what do you
to
get
roll
with the
a die?
tidal navigator?
What? You think you're gonna...
What do you get with the tidal navigator?
Your special ally is the weather. The weather is its own entity in Amilta, and it is friends with Tidal Augustine, which means it is a friend of a friend to you and will do favors for you.
Yeah,
but the consequence of overusing your link to the weather.
Stop trying to sell it to me. It's fine.
The consequence of overusing your link to the weather is that you lose control of your temper. Like, you control how it manifests. It's called Heedless Hurricane.
So this is like a storm from the X-Men sort of vibes a little bit.
They have got those kinds of abilities, especially
Tia
in later
Peppa
seasons.
and Encanto.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Tidal Navigator sounds pretty cool. Very magical girl adjacent.
The Beckoning Infiltrator's special ally is everyone they know. It's called the Network.
Nice.
And if you overuse your bond with your network, you forget which person was you. And you have an identity crisis.
Interesting.
And your bond, obviously, for the Windswept Cavalier is your Cloud Elk. And if you overuse that, you lose your ability to communicate with humans. You're more animal than human. You can't talk to people anymore.
Are you going to have to roll a die to make a decision, Ryan?
Just have to go feral.
No, I'm going to go with Tidal Navigator.
Right.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you got Enduring Legionnaire, Tidal Navigator, and then Kat, what did you pick?
I'm going to be an Arcanist. I'm going to get silly.
Do it.
I'm going to be an Arcanist.
I love it.
So the next thing that we're going to do, so if you go to your class in the book, then what you can do is there's a list of what's called spell notes. The way you cast spells in this game is kind of like fridge poetry. The GM gives you a note from from the surroundings, from the scene, and you have a list of notes yourself. And you put one of yours and one of the GM's together into 2-word phrase, and then tell the GM what that means and what it does. Where's my little demon buddy? Here we go.
Okay, so I went to the Tidal Navigator in the book. And then down in kind of a couple pages in, there's the spell notes that you're talking about, right? Choose 6.
Yep, and you're going to want to choose, 6 of those.
Okay. Ooh. So these are just like fun, like evocative kind of words. So my choices here: striking, protecting, advancing, fearless, endless, grim, armor, allies, enemies, battlefield, weapon, and victory.
Nice.
They're the soldier class. They do soldier things.
Yeah. And what did you say? Choose 6?
Yes.
Oh, it says right here. Spell notes, choose 6. I can read.
I've got a lot of good ones as well.
What do you have? Tell me.
So my choices are lifting, moving, rallying, joyous, singing, united, wind, water, crew, rope, note, command.
Oh. Those are like so different than mine.
I know. Yeah,
I love it.
The ones I have are seeing, summoning, freezing, sharp, dangerous, clouded, cold, spirits, nightmares, ascent, judgment, and scream.
Yeah. So judgment, scream. Love it.
Yeah.
Totally chill.
Totally chill. It's the mountain. Of course it's totally chill.
Usually even more chill at the top.
Yep.
That's how mountains work.
And then once you've picked 6 of those, you're going to go to the season 1 abilities just below, and you're going to pick one of those.
I'm curious what people are choosing for their 6.
I went with summoning, freezing, clouded, ascent, judgment, and scream. I like judgment. I think it's a big one.
I went with endless, grim, advancing, striking, victory, and fearless.
Nice.
Okay, I got mine. Singing, wind, water, command, joyous, rallying.
Nice.
I'm going to write
That
down
sounds
these
really interesting.
starting skills here, too.
Yeah. So the possible season 1 abilities for an Arcanist are Demonologist. I can always recognize a demon or the work of a demon, even if it's in disguise. Soul Siphon. Whenever someone around me scatters, I can lose 1 scatter from my own total. Scatter is the measure of how much you have disassociated from using your magic. Consider it your MP. You gain scatter as you cast spells, and you lose scatter as you kind of return to yourself.
Okay.
If you hit 10 scatter, you pass out because too much of your consciousness is outside your body. So Soul Siphon lets me recover a little bit when other people are scattering. But the one I'm choosing is Iron Will. You can still move while your scatter is at 10. You're only borderline catatonic instead of fully passing out. You can respond verbally and you can move around, but you can't perform complicated actions. So my character can cast spells to the point of being knocked out and still keep dragging themselves along.
Nice.
That's my Arcanist.
This is under that advancement section,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Ooh.
All right. So my choices, I could choose Swashbuckler, which lets when you roll daring or athletics, the conductor cannot offer you are injured as a condition on an edge success.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Basically, when you roll dice, you roll a dice pool.
Mhm.
And 5s and 6s are successes. 1s are edge successes, which means you can count them as a success, but you have to accept a deal from the GM.
Mm-mm.
If you take
Interesting.
Swashbuckler, however, the GM is not allowed to offer you an injury as this.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's just you don't get hurt doing Swashbuckler stuff. You're too cool.
That's very cool.
That's
I
dope.
like that a lot. There's also Anchor Note. When you cast a spell or chord, if you do so while playing music, you gain 1 fewer scatter. It sounds like you're able to do more magic.
Yep.
While you're doing music. That's kind of cool. And then Greedy Eye, once per scene, you can gain a scatter in exchange for knowing what the most valuable item in the scene is. Not just to you, but at least one other person in the same scene. That's cool too.
Pirates.
Yeah, seriously. I think I'm going to go with Anchor Note, though, because that'll let me cast more of my weather magic.
Yeah.
And that feels more magical girl-esque.
What kind of music do you think your character might be performing?
Gosh, it's going to be like probably a combination of like singing, like could be either just ethereal singing or actual like singing. And maybe like a lyre or something,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Not
That is
synth
very
pop.
magical.
No. get out my my
Yeah, your synth
my
keyboard
DJ
and
station.
yeah.
Yeah, my synth keyboard. Yep.
I don't know. If you give me magic and, like I can talk to the
Oh.
dead and
Well, it's
you
like
could.
gem in the holograms.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
I don't. So
Activated.
what does like one of mine is overscatter. So you can choose to overscatter when casting a spell. What does that mean?
So when you hit 10 scatter, you are knocked out, which means you have a hard limit. You cannot spend more than 10 scatter. If you have the overscatter ability, you can. You still get knocked out, but you can spend more than
works.
10 scatter to get
Got it.
there.
Okay.
Mm.
So you can do very, very huge spells at the cost of being just funk.
Gotcha.
Gone.
Otherwise, I can have an unerring sense of direction where I can't get lost, or I can make weapons.
You can make weapons.
I kind of like overscatter. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to pick things that have still negative
Yeah.
consequences.
And
so
I
this
tried
goes under
to-
my
I tried-
abilities?
That's your season 1 ability.
Okay.
So I tried to pick a balance of things that like were flavor and narrative and things that were just rule stuff.
Yeah.
To suit different kinds of play styles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to play with those. I'm definitely going to play with those. This is a playtest. I'll play with them. But before we play with them.
I do like having an unerring sense of direction. I feel like that sounds very cool. But
you had
also,
to go through a maze.
That's true.
You had to go through a maze and it was full of horrors and it was bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. Okay.
I also just like things that have negative consequences for me personally. So
that makes sense. Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah.
It's, like I like to make characters where I'm like, how can this go wrong for me?
So while we're still in step 1, you've got information in there about your special ally.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got information, Amelia, about the abilities you get from being able to commune with the dead. It's going to be a little bit above the spell pieces.
Yes.
We've got abilities from your relationship to the weather, Ryan. And I've got relationship with my little demon friend. Because I have got a little demon that followed me after my journey.
Nice.
Now it lives with me.
Yeah, so my ally is the Fallen.
Yeah.
Which I'm scanning to read to say the important information out loud.
Further,
yeah.
If you scroll up even further, there's also a lot of background stuff in here. Like there's a you might have section, which is just like, I don't know, things to think about that your character might have. And there's also background questions. None of these are mandatory, but they are kind of there, like I said, to keep people from getting overwhelmed and to help people anchor themselves in your character's reality.
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions for the Arcanist is, what is your favorite field of study?
Ooh.
I think my Arcanist is a geologist.
Oh, I really love that. Especially after climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Enjoyed the rocks up there.
Mm-hmm. Did you just go up the mountain for the really cool rocks and then you were like...
Yeah, I think that is what
also
happened.
This thing happened. You're just out there doing your really cool rock special interests, and then it was like, oh, also I met a god while I was there.
Yeah, and there was a god up there that was like, hey, you wanna do demon stuff? And I was like, okay,
okay, I'm here anyway. That is like the most neurodivergent backstory ever. I was just looking for rocks, but now I have this demon friend.
Oh, I know.
Just went on a walk looking for some rocks.
I think then I'm going to have my familiar actually be a stone. Like I have got a crystal.
Is it like a little crystal rock demon?
And inside the crystal, her name is Dendra. She's like a dendritic copper in quartz because there's a formation that appears that quartz can grow that looks like leaves. That's why it's called dendritic. These leaves make the shape of a little person in this crystal.
Oh my God, that's so dope.
Nice.
And she's a little scamp. She does not have anything nice to say about anyone. And I think my character is not like that. I think my character is very relaxed, stressed out by people, but not unpleasant toward them.
Because your demons say all the things that you're too nice to say.
I think so. I think Dendra is very embarrassing for this character.
Oh no.
It's like, no, you can't say that. You
so
can't say that.
Why would you just
listen, I'm sure they're trying their best. You really can't say that.
No. I'm trying to think.
You don't have to choose the ally pool abilities. You just get them.
Nice.
Oh, you get all of them?
So it looks like I'm friends with the wind.
Yeah.
That's nice. The weather is a stubborn creature, but one that will listen to reason, especially from someone Augustine has given their approval to.
Yep. So the abilities I have are Wicked Advisor, which lets people re-roll using understanding or adaptability instead of whatever skill they used. Sticky Fingers, which just takes them from me, steals them. Or Soul Gathering, that helps me regain the pieces of myself that I spend to cast a spell. So Dendra can actually gather up pieces of my soul and return them to me.
Okay. And Ghostly Shield. The dead defend you or an ally. Haunted Blade. When you miss an opponent with an attack, the dead correct your strike. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And call Spectre. A phantom appears to aid you. That's
Very nice. For me, with the wind, spell notes are fearless and fleeting.
Ooh.
And I get wind at your back. You call on a favorable wind to help with an action. So it'll help me, like if I'm trying to row a small craft or move curtains to conceal someone.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. You can use that even after you've already made the roll. Ray of sunlight. You can briefly call on the clouds to part, illuminating someone in the scene with the soothing warmth of the sun. They can choose to clear 2 scatter or 1 blur. Very nice.
Blur is like scatter, but it's the pool of how close you are to your ally. So blur is the thing that makes the Legionnaire depressed.
And
that makes the Navigator grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
And what does it do to you?
Actually, it makes me obsessed.
Oh.
Because noble demons are obsessive. They have a single overriding obsession and they literally don't care about anything else. And if I blur too much into my little lesser demon friend, I get a little more noble demonish. And I only think about rocks.
Oof.
Interesting.
And I want them and I don't think about anything else or care.
It's so good.
So I shouldn't have 5 blur. Please don't let me have 5 blur.
I just get big sad.
Okay. Yeah, and then the last one that I have is gale. You call a powerful wind, one strong enough to knock a grown adult off their feet, to act on a person or object you can see. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, just shove them over.
Yeah.
Shove them over.
Good old crowd control.
And then before we leave the class chapter, you're also going to want to take down your starting skills.
Yes, I have survival, melee weapons, mid-range weapons, engineering, and tactics.
Yeah.
Let's see. My skills are survival, nautical, melee weapons, performance, athletics, and navigation.
And mine are survival, high altitude, long range weapons, focus, spirits, and athletics.
Ooh.
And these are starting skills. We're going to round out this with some more skills later on. Skills, by the way, are a binary proposition in this game. They don't really have ranks. It's just, do you have them or do you not have them?
Okay.
So you don't need to worry about levels or anything like that.
Nice. Or percentages and plus % per level, as a certain unnamed game will say.
What percentage is your radio basic? Basically when you build a die pool for rolling an action, you add 1 per level if you have the skill. That's all there is.
Okay.
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to assign our facets. Those are our stat line. I love our stat line. It makes me happy. I hope you will love it too. We have got 5 facets. We have got daring, understanding, sensitivity, subtlety, and adaptability. These represent not innate parts of you, but rather ways you solve problems. So understanding is not a measure of how smart your character is. It is a measure of how well your character solves problems using information. Or whether they even feel like doing that. So daring is the tendency to do things, to take action, to make direct moves that solve problems. Understanding, like I mentioned, is the tendency to use information, either information you already know or information you've been given. Sensitivity is the tendency to take in information from the surroundings, to investigate, to learn more. Subtlety is the tendency to hide your motives or hide your actions from others. And adaptability is your tendency to just roll with it, to just kind of accept things as they are and change course.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that. What? Adaptability. Changing course?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't sound right.
That's exactly it. Like you can play a low adaptability character, and that's what I alluded to earlier, is that like you can play a character who is not good at changing course or changing their plan last minute, but is very good, say, at solving a problem using information, but maybe might be a little set in their ways. None of these facets are immutable elements of your existence. We don't have a strength stat. We don't have a charisma stat. We certainly do not have an intelligence stat, because I actually don't believe in those. I don't think some people are smart and some people aren't. And also the concept of intelligence and IQ is kind of the most egregious and entrenched ableism in that it has directly led to direct actual eugenics.
Yeah.
So when I was first writing this game years and years ago, I was like, I don't want an int stat.
Nope.
And this was the stat line that came from sitting down and deciding not to have intelligence in the game.
Right.
No, I think it makes sense, because there is a big difference between like being able to absorb information and knowing what to do with that information. Those are two, like you can be really good at memorizing facts, but then if you don't know how to put those into practice, that's it's going to affect you in a very different way.
And it is, you did your pilgrimage.
And some people are really great at pattern recognition. Really good at pattern recognition.
That's an understanding right there.
How do you assign that? Like, do they all just start at 1 or do we put numbers in them?
You start with 1 point in each of them, and then you get 5 more points to divide up.
Okay.
And none of them can have more than 5 points to start. So you can't just put all 5 into the same stat.
That makes sense.
Another thing I like about this stat line is paired with the backstory. It means that, like, how strong is my character? I don't know, strong enough to climb a mountain. They did it.
Right?
Exactly.
They managed it. What do you want? Like, how strong is Ryan's character? Strong enough to do sailor stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because your character has canonically done sailor stuff.
Maybe a little swashbuckling here and there.
Yeah.
I swashed some buckles in my time.
I've swashed some buckles.
I'm going to put a bunch of stats into sensitivity, because I feel like my character is a geologist, so is always walking around like eyes open looking for interesting rocks everywhere they look. And so they're very used to paying close attention to their surroundings. And then I'm going to put 2 dots in everything but subtlety. I don't think this character is subtle. Just because I like the idea that the demon is subtle and the arcanist is not.
That makes sense.
So I put 1 in daring, because that just feels, I don't know, if you spend a lot of time around dead people and feels like
you're
at
not
least
a
little
doer.
daring. Yeah.
You're not the one to lead the charge.
Right. I put 2 in understanding, just because that feels correct. I don't know. Because put 1 in sensitivity, and then 1 in subtlety. Subtlety mostly just because, like, you've talking to dead people a lot, so you gotta, like, people don't really look super kindly on that. I put none in adaptability. I don't think I'm great at just going with the flow. I also think dead people would be pretty stuck in their ways. That seems to be a thing with ghosts generally, is they're kind of stuck. So that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, so your character's similar to mine, like always paying attention.
Yes.
But maybe not always the first person to act on the information that comes from always paying attention.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And then for me, I went with 2 extra in daring.
Ooh, because you swashed those buckles?
I swashed those buckles.
Yeah.
I've been known to dabble in the swashing of the buckling.
Yeah.
And then I put 1 into understanding. So I figured they have a good understanding of things. And then I went all the way down and put 2 extra in adaptability. None in sensitivity or subtlety.
Okay. So you do what needs to be done in the moment, and you're perfectly willing to just go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I figured this person's kind of like a very in the moment sort of person. And rides the wind where it takes them.
I love that. I truly do.
It's everything that I am not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Call to action.
Yeah, like that. So this game we picked up kind of last minute because we just like couldn't get anything else to work with scheduling and everything, and we kind of put a call out. And I'm so excited that this worked out.
Yeah.
Because this was such a good series. It was so much fun to record. And when we get to the part where Cat is like explaining the classes, immediately as we're going through this, we're both like, ooh, oh, yeah, ooh, like fireworks. Ooh,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of real flavor on every one of these classes, but like, you know, there's just a couple of them that are like, these are 100% Amelia's.
Right. Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's, and we talk about it kind of throughout the series, but the thing that we realized right away, just as we were going through that list, that it was like, we each had multiple things that we felt like we could do and have a lot of fun with. And it was also very clear that like, I could have done the class that you picked and it would have looked totally different. You could have picked the class that I picked and it would have looked completely different because it was so like specialized in, but you know, again, we will continue to talk about this through the series, like specialized in sort of a flavorful way. Yeah. And you could really like get in and personalize things. And I can't wait for people to hear what we did with these characters because they've been some of my favorite to create recently. Not to say that I haven't liked our other series with the exception of Ninja Turtles, but this was so much fun. And I can't wait for people to hear all of it because it was, I mean, it's just great. It's great. I really want to sit down and play this game.
I know it sounds like a lot of fun. It's got a really fantastic concept. There's a lot of like rich background to the world and the characters and stuff. And you can see there was a lot of like thought and attention to detail put into this. And I absolutely love the fact that it's based around like, you know, people with disabilities being able to do what they want to do. And like people with mental health issues struggling with that sort of stuff being forefront to not only like the theme of the game, but also the mechanics and stuff.
And I like that it's done in a way that isn't like trauma based, that it's not like, let's relive the things that make life hard for you so that they can be hard in your fantasy world too. It's very much like, do you want to play a character that feels like you, but still be able to go on the epic adventures? Okay. You know, we get to that point where it's like, you can have a disability, but we've already established in the lore, because you picked this class, that you have done this thing. You don't have to explain how. You did it. That's fine.
Yeah, it's very cool to see. And that's exactly like what piqued my interest right away when I saw the opening blurb when Kat first shared it randomly on a Discord that we share. And I said, we got to cover this game because this is amazing. It worked out. And Kat was a fantastic guest. And there was a lot of like similar vibing going on between you two, especially.
Yes.
Like we understand each other.
Yeah, it was a very like kindred soul kind of situation. It felt like very warm and comfortable right away. So I really hope that comes across in what people are listening to. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear all of this series. It's
absolutely
chef's kiss.
So much good stuff this series.
Before we let you go for the day, though, here are the rest of our actual notes.
Absolutely. First up, September means that we're counting down to spooky season in October, and you will want to keep your eyes open for some really exciting network news closer to the end of the month, including some news from our very own podcast here. So we'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, you can go ahead and check out Starwhal. It's set to release a new episode soon. And James's new show, the Ultimate RPG Podcast, is such a great discussion show that honestly pairs very nicely with the tone of our show.
If you like what we're doing here and you want to support our show, you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and sign up for any of our basic tiers. Each level has a ton of great rewards associated with it. You can join our Sticker of the Month Club at $10, where you get a new sticker for every month, usually in themes from the series we've covered in the show that month, sometimes in just funny inside jokes that I think people should have stickers of. You can also get some custom C3 dice and a personalized thank you card, handcrafted by me for our $5 and up levels, and our chit chats every week when we're able to, when we're feeling well. Our kids are back at school now, and so I'm really hoping this is the time we can do it.
So much wood that we need to knock on there.
So much more brain space, though. You'll be able to get those at the $1 and up level. We are going to be releasing bonus outtakes for all of our patrons at the free level and character sheets. Please hold us to this. Like, feel free to message us and be like, hey, you haven't put those out yet, because we forget. We have them. We just forget to, post them anywhere. So if any of those sound good to you, please head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/charactercreationcast.
We also like to thank all of our patrons personally every episode. You mean the world to us, so let's go ahead and get this started with DJ G, aka Degranosaurus, Eric Bonds, and Daryl Holiday II. You all rock. Thank you.
Shadim Cabal, the Shyest Barbarian, and Benjamin Sweeney. Many thanks to you.
Thank you to Lorcan McGinnis, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown.
Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, thanks for helping us make this show.
We're glad to have you here, Cole McCallum, Carlos Salazar, and Eric S. Thanks for supporting.
Thanks, Ian Popmeyer, Soragoth, and Liam G. We are glad to have you backing us as well.
Brian Colm, Garden GM, and Tanglefoot, you're all amazing. Thank you.
Thank you to Blue Kryptonite, Danny, and Nicole Trainer. We are so glad to have you.
Liam Murray, Kenning, and Brian Kurtz. We can't thank you enough, but we'll keep on trying.
Thanks, Mark E. Fair and Drew Owen. We are so glad you're here.
And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support means the absolute world to us. Every bit of support here helps tremendously, and we are incredibly grateful to all of you. If you are already supporting the Patreon or can't afford to do so right now, and still want to show your support for the show, the next best way to do that is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook. And we'll go ahead and read your review right here, and thank you personally if you do so.
That's all we have for today's episode. Next episode, we'll be doing more character creation with Cat McDonald. But until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this character creation series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune, or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.